You know that satisfying moment when someone underestimates you so completely that their own arrogance becomes the weapon you use to destroy them? Yeah, that's basically my origin story. I'm Ramona Floyd, and for 10 years I was the invisible backbone of Floyd Construction LLC here in Austin, Texas. While my husband Tyson strutted around construction sites in his custom Lucchese boots playing big shot contractor, I was the one actually running the show. Closing deals, managing books, and organizing finances in ways Tyson thought were too complicated for my pretty little head to understand. Spoiler alert. Turns out this pretty little head has a bachelor's degree in accounting from UT Austin and a photographic memory for financial fraud. But let's rewind to that spectacular Tuesday afternoon in October, when my entire life became a masterclass in poetic justice. I was sitting in our Tarrytown kitchen, one of those renovated craftsman homes that scream we have money but want to look tastefully humble, drinking sweet tea and scrolling through our company's latest invoicing when Tyson walked in 3 hours early from a site inspection. He had that look, the one that says I practiced this speech in my truck, the one that makes your stomach drop because you know something nuclear is coming. Ramona, we need to talk. 5 words. That's all it took for me to know my 11-year marriage was about to become another Austin divorce statistic. I set down my phone slowly, took a long sip of tea, and said, "Let me guess. This is about Simone?" His face went white. Not pale. White. Like he'd seen a ghost driving a cement mixer. "How did you—" he started, then caught himself, switching to his rehearsed script. "Look, this isn't working anymore. We've grown apart. You don't understand my business world. I think we should separate." I nodded slowly, watching him fidget with his UT class ring, the one he wore to every Texas Builders Association event to prove he was educated despite barely graduating. Grown apart. Interesting phrase. Is that what we're calling your twice-weekly afternoon property tours with our real estate agent? He had the audacity, the absolute audacity, to look offended. This isn't about her. This is about us. About how you never really fit into my professional life. My professional life. The professional life I literally built while he was out playing golf with city council members and charging it to client development. "You're right," I said, keeping my voice honey sweet. "I never quite fit into those country club brunches with the other contractors' wives. Probably because I was too busy, actually running your company." Tyson rolled his eyes. Actually rolled them like a teenager caught cheating on a test. "You answer phones and file papers, Ramona. Let's not pretend you understand the complicated parts. The complicated parts. The complicated parts like how he'd been skimming money off municipal contracts for 7 years. The complicated parts like the LLC registered in his mother's name that received mysterious weekly transfers. The complicated parts like charging the city of Austin premium materials while using builder-grade garbage that wouldn't survive our first real Texas hailstorm. But I just smiled. "You know what? You're absolutely right. Numbers were never really my thing." He visibly relaxed, probably thinking I was going to make this easy. Poor, delusional Tyson. "I'll have my lawyer draw up papers," he continued, suddenly confident. "We'll be fair, of course. You can have your car, some savings, maybe the rental property on South Congress." "How generous," I interrupted, standing up to rinse my glass. "The rental property that's underwater on its mortgage because you took out that second loan to buy Simone her Range Rover." The color that came back to his face wasn't healthy. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't." I turned around, leaning against the sink. "Just like you don't know about the Shell Corporation that's been receiving 20% of every city contract payment, or the inspection reports you've been forging, or the 3 different sets of books we keep, one for the IRS, one for bonding companies, and one with the actual numbers." Tyson's jaw literally dropped. And in that moment, that beautiful, cinematic moment, I watched an 11-year power dynamic completely invert. The man who'd spent a decade treating me like his secretary suddenly realized he'd been giving his secretary complete access to his criminal enterprise. "You're blowing this out of proportion," he tried, voice shaking. "Those are just creative accounting practices. Every contractor does it." "Creative accounting," I repeated, nodding thoughtfully. "Is that what we're calling federal fraud now? Good to know." I'll make sure to use that phrase when I'm organizing my files. What files? His voice cracked on the last word. I smiled wider. Oh, honey. I've been keeping detailed files since year 3. When you told me I was too simple-minded to understand business complexity but still needed me to process all the invoices, that's when I started creating my insurance policy. Every forged inspection report, every fraudulent billing statement, every mysterious transfer to Coastal Property Holdings LLC, your mother's little shell company that she definitely doesn't know exists. I watched him calculate. I could practically see his brain trying to figure out if I was bluffing. The beautiful thing about being underestimated for 10 years? Nobody ever suspects you've been taking notes the whole time. You wouldn't, he said finally. It would implicate you too. Would it though? I tilted my head. I'm just the administrative assistant who did what her boss told her. I have emails, so many emails, where you specifically instructed me to handle the paperwork and don't ask questions about the details. I was following orders from my employer, who also happened to be my husband. What did I know about construction fraud? I just filed what I was told to file. The silence that followed was delicious. Pure, aged to perfection, vintage silence. Tyson opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again like a bass pulled out of Lady Bird Lake. So here's what's going to happen, I continued, enjoying every second of his fish impression. You're going to file for divorce. You're going to tell everyone it's mutual and amicable. And you're going to give me exactly what I'm entitled to under Texas law, which, by the way, is 50% of all marital assets since we're a community property state. That's 50% of a company I actually ran while you played cowboy contractor at networking events. And if I don't? His voice was barely a whisper. I picked up my phone from the counter, waggled it at him. Then my very detailed files, complete with 10 years of documentation, witness statements from suppliers who will testify you threatened them, and particularly damning recordings of you explaining to me exactly how to hide assets from the IRS. All of that goes to the Travis County District Attorney's Office. Also, maybe the IRS. Also, definitely the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. I'm thinking a mass email situation. Very efficient. Tyson stood there, his custom boots that cost more than most people's monthly rent suddenly looking ridiculous on his frozen legs. Oh, and Tyson? I added, moving past him toward the stairs. Tell Simone she can keep the Range Rover. Something tells me she's going to need reliable transportation when she's looking for a new job. Pretty sure selling real estate requires associating with people who aren't federal criminals. I made it 3 steps up before he found his voice again. You're bluffing. You're too scared to actually do this. I stopped, turned, and gave him the smile I'd been practicing in my head for approximately 7 years. Try me. The next 48 hours were a masterclass in watching a man's ego deflate in real time. Tyson moved into our guest bedroom. Because of course he did. The house was technically half his until the lawyers got involved, and started what I can only describe as a very pathetic apology tour mixed with intimidation tactics. Wednesday morning, I woke up to find him sitting at our kitchen island with his laptop open, trying to look casual while clearly searching through company files. The man had never logged into our accounting software before 7 in the evening in his entire life, and here he was at 6:30 in the morning, squinting at spreadsheets like they were written in ancient hieroglyphics. Looking for something? I asked, pouring my coffee. He jumped, actually jumped, and slammed the laptop shut. Just reviewing some contracts. Find anything interesting? I sat down across from him, cradling my mug. Or did you discover that you can't actually access half the files because they require administrator credentials that only I have? The look on his face told me he'd discovered exactly that. I own this company, Ramona. I should have access to everything. You're absolutely right. I agreed cheerfully. You should. Funny how you never bothered learning the passwords in 10 years, though. Too busy with those client lunches at Eddie V's, I guess. He tried a different approach, switching to the voice he used when he wanted something. The one that probably worked on Simone, but had stopped working on me around year 5. Look, maybe I was too hasty yesterday. We don't need to blow this up. We can go to counseling, work things out. Oh, now you want counseling, I interrupted. Not when I suggested it 3 years ago after I found the credit card statement for that weekend trip to South Padre Island. The one you claimed was a builder's convention, but somehow included charges at Victoria's Secret and couples spa treatments. But sure, now that your entire criminal enterprise is at risk, now therapy sounds good. Tyson's jaw clenched. You're being unreasonable. I'm being unreasonable, I repeated slowly, savoring each word. I'm being unreasonable because I don't want to participate in your fraud anymore, or stay married to someone who's been cheating on me with the woman who sold us this house. The same woman who somehow became a regular at our family barbecues over the years. That's Simone. It's not what you think. It never is, I said, standing up. But here's what I think is interesting. Yesterday you wanted me gone with minimal fuss. Today you want counseling. Tomorrow you'll probably try to convince me you have blackmail material too. So let me save us both some time. I already contacted Diana Reeves. The name hit him like a nail gun to the thumb. Diana Reeves was only the most cutthroat divorce attorney in Austin, known for taking wealthy husbands to the cleaners so thoroughly they had to sell their boat collections. You what? Contacted Diana Reeves, I repeated. Had a lovely 2-hour consultation last Friday afternoon. You remember Friday, right? When you texted saying you'd be late because of that emergency at the domain expansion site? Well, I was downtown at Diana's office going through 11 years of financial documents. She found the whole situation fascinating, especially the part about coastal property holdings. Tyson went pale again. He was doing that a lot lately. Not a good look on a man who'd spent 42 years thinking he was the smartest person in every room. That's privileged information. It's my financial history too, I corrected. Community property state, remember? Every fraudulent dollar you made, I'm legally entitled to know about. Diana was very thorough about explaining my rights. And my options. The coffee maker beeped, breaking the tension. Tyson stood abruptly, grabbing his truck keys from the counter. I'm going to the office. Don't work too hard, I called after him. Oh, and Ty, I've already downloaded complete backups of every file you're going to look for. Mueller Project, domain expansion. Those interesting invoices from Summit Supply that showed $300,000 in fake outstanding debt. All safely stored in multiple locations you'll never find. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. I smiled into my coffee. One day down, however many it took until this man learned not to underestimate the woman who'd been managing his entire operation while he played big-shot contractor. By Thursday, Tyson had recruited backup. His mother, Patricia Floyd, showed up at noon in her Cadillac Escalade with a Tory Burch handbag and an attitude that suggested I was the unreasonable party in this scenario. Ramona, sweetheart, she started, settling herself on our couch without invitation. Tyson told me about this little misunderstanding. Little misunderstanding. That's what we were calling a decade of financial fraud and infidelity now. Did he mention the part about using your name to register a shell corporation? I asked pleasantly. Because I feel like that's an important detail you should know about, Patricia. The IRS tends to get cranky about people whose names appear on companies they've never heard of. Her smile froze. I don't know what you're talking about. Coastal Property Holdings, LLC, I said, pulling up the registration documents on my phone. Registered in March of 2020 at your address in Westlake. You're listed as the primary member. Been receiving transfers of about $5,000 weekly for almost 5 years now. That's roughly $1,300,000, Patricia. I'm sure the IRS will be very interested in whether you reported that income. I watched her process this. Patricia Floyd was many things. Judgmental, manipulative, convinced her son could do no wrong. But she wasn't stupid. She knew her precious Tyson had just made her an accessory to federal tax fraud. He told me it was for estate planning, she said weakly. I'm sure that'll hold up great in court, I replied. Right up there with the dog ate my tax returns and I didn't know $1 million was sitting in an account with my name on it. Classic defenses. Patricia's perfectly made-up face crumpled slightly. What do you want? I want your son to give me a fair divorce settlement without trying to screw me over. I want him to stop pretending I'm some gold digger when I'm literally the person who built his company while he was out playing cowboy. And I want you to stay out of this, Patricia, because every time you interfere, I get more motivated to make sure the appropriate authorities know exactly how involved you've been." She left without another word, her Escalade peeling out of the driveway fast enough to leave rubber marks. That evening, Tyson came home with flowers. Grocery store flowers. Not even good ones. The kind that come wrapped in plastic at the H-E-B checkout. "I'm sorry," he said, holding them out like a peace offering. "I've been horrible. I panicked. Can we just start over and handle this like adults?" I looked at the flowers, wilting daisies and carnations that were already browning at the edges, and then at my husband of 11 years who thought a $14 bouquet would fix a decade of lies. "You know what, Tyson? Sure. Let's handle this like adults." I took the flowers, walked to the kitchen, and dropped them directly into the trash. "Like adults, I'll be meeting with Diana again tomorrow to discuss asset division. Like adults, you'll be receiving formal divorce papers by Monday. And like adults, we'll let the courts decide what's fair instead of you trying to manipulate me into accepting whatever scraps you feel like throwing my way. Ramona, oh, and one more adult thing," I continued. "Any files you need access to, you can submit a formal request through Diana's office. I'll consider it during business hours. You know, like a professional." The flowers sat in the trash can, already starting to smell. Kind of like our marriage had for the past 3 years, if I was being honest. Tyson stood there, probably trying to figure out if he should try anger or pleading next. I saved him the trouble. "Guest bedroom or the Driscoll Hotel, Ty? Your choice. But I'm done sharing this house with someone who spent 11 years making me feel small while stealing from the government and sleeping with our real estate agent." He chose the hotel. I chose a very nice bottle of wine from our collection, the one he'd been saving for a special occasion, and drank it while reviewing the files Diana would be presenting to the court. Turns out, special occasions are subjective. Monday morning arrived with the kind of October crispness that makes Austin pretend it has actual seasons. I was sitting in Diana Reeves's downtown office, one of those glass tower spaces with a view of Lady Bird Lake that screams "I win" cases and charge accordingly, when she slid a folder across her mahogany desk with the kind of smile that probably gave opposing counsel nightmares. "Your husband's attorney contacted me Friday afternoon," Diana said, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the folder. "Martin Cheswick, old money lawyer, represents half the good old boys in the Texas Builders Association." "Let me guess," I said. "Tyson's offering me a generous settlement of exactly nothing while painting me as the unreasonable wife who doesn't understand business." Diana's smile widened. "Close. He's offering you $200,000, the South Congress rental property, which we both know is underwater, and a 3-year non-compete clause preventing you from working in construction or real estate in Travis County." I laughed. Actually, laughed. He's trying to ban me from the industry I built for him, while giving me less than 20% of what I'm legally entitled to. That's bold. It gets better, Diana continued, opening the folder. Martin sent over Tyson's financial disclosure. According to these documents, Floyd Construction LLC has been operating at a loss for the past 2 years, has significant outstanding debts, and the company's total value is approximately $400,000. I stared at her. The company that just closed a $3.2 million contract with the city for the new recreation center in East Austin is worth $400,000? According to Tyson's accountant, yes. Diana pulled out another document. They're claiming operational costs, equipment depreciation, and bad debt have eaten most of the profits. They've even included a letter from a mortgage servicer suggesting potential foreclosure proceedings on your Terrytown property. My brain started working through the implications. This wasn't just lowball negotiation tactics. This was scorched earth. Tyson was trying to hide assets, probably moving money around to make everything look worthless right before the divorce. "He's panicking," I said slowly. "He thinks if he can make the company look broke, he can keep me from getting my share while hiding the real money somewhere I can't find it." "That would be my assessment," Diana agreed. "The question is whether we can prove it before we file our response." I sat back in the leather chair, thinking. 10 years of managing Tyson's chaos had taught me exactly how he operated when cornered. He got sloppy, cut corners, and always, always underestimated the people cleaning up his messes. Diana, what would happen if we could prove Tyson was actively hiding assets and committing fraud during divorce proceedings? Her eyes lit up like a kid seeing the Christmas tree at the Texas Capitol. In Texas? The court can award 100% of community property to the non-fraudulent spouse, plus sanctions, legal fees, and in extreme cases, criminal referral. 100%, I repeated, letting that sink in. Everything. Everything, Diana confirmed. But we'd need ironclad proof. Bank records, transfers, communications showing intent. Judges don't like being lied to, but they need evidence. I pulled out my phone, opened my encrypted backup drive, and started scrolling through files I'd been organizing for 7 years. What if I told you I have copies of 3 separate bank accounts Tyson opened in the past 2 weeks? All with different banks, all with significant transfers from Floyd Construction's operating account. Diana leaned forward. Keep talking. Wednesday morning, the day after he announced the divorce, Tyson transferred $87,000 to a new account at Frost Bank under his name only. Thursday, another $63,000 went to an account at BBVA. Friday, right before Martin contacted you, he moved $112,000 to a business account at Texas Trust Credit Union. That's $262,000 moved in 3 days. I have screenshots of every transaction with timestamps and confirmation numbers. How do you have access to real-time banking information? Diana asked, though her tone suggested she didn't actually care about the answer as long as it was legal. I'm still the administrator on all company accounts, I said simply. Tyson set me up with full access years ago because he needed someone to handle vendor payments and payroll. He never removed my credentials because he assumed I didn't understand how to actually use them for anything beyond basic transactions. I've been downloading daily account summaries since Tuesday evening. Diana was already typing on her laptop. This is prosecutable fraud. Not just divorce fraud. This is actively concealing assets from Community Property Division during active proceedings, which in Texas can result in criminal charges. There's more, I continued, warming to the topic. The financial disclosure Martin sent you claims the company owes $300,000 to Summit Supply for materials. I called Summit this morning, told them I was verifying account status for our quarterly review. They confirmed our account has no outstanding balance. We paid them in full September 30th. So the debt is fabricated, Diana said, still typing furiously. The debt is completely fabricated, I confirmed. And that mortgage foreclosure letter? I called our actual lender, First Republic Bank. Our mortgage has been auto-paid from our joint account for 8 years without a single missed payment. There are no foreclosure proceedings. That letter is either forged or from a company that doesn't hold our mortgage. Diana stopped typing and looked at me with something approaching awe. How long have you been gathering this? Actively? Since Tuesday evening. But I've been keeping detailed records since year 3 of our marriage, ever since Tyson told me I was too simple-minded to handle real financial decisions, but still needed me to process every invoice and transfer that came through the company. I scrolled through more files. I have documentation of every fraudulent municipal invoice, every kickback to city inspectors, every false material claim, and every dollar that went to Coastal Property Holdings. I also have recordings. Recordings, Diana repeated, her voice taking on a predatory edge that probably made opposing counsel weep. 87 hours across 7 years, I said. Texas is a one-party consent state, and I was definitely one party to every conversation where Tyson explained exactly how to process questionable transactions. He liked to think out loud while I was filing paperwork. Thought I wasn't really paying attention. I was paying very close attention. Diana sat back, steepled her fingers, and smiled the smile of a lawyer who'd just been handed a nuclear weapon. Ramona, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to think very carefully before answering. What exactly do you want out of this divorce? I'd been thinking about that question since Tuesday. About 11 years of being dismissed, minimized, and treated like decorative office furniture. About Tyson's face when he'd said I didn't understand his business world. About Simone showing up to family barbecues with her designer handbags, while I pretended not to notice the way she touched my husband's arm. I want him to lose everything he thinks makes him important, I said quietly. The company, the reputation, The good old boy network that protected him. I want every person who watched him treat me like his secretary to know I was the one actually running the show. And I want to do it legally, thoroughly, and so completely that he never underestimates another woman in his life. Diana nodded slowly. Then we're not just filing a divorce response. We're filing a response with a fraud complaint attached. And I'm going to make a call to an old law school friend who works at the Travis County District Attorney's Office. She specializes in white-collar crime and has a particular interest in construction fraud. Won't that complicate the divorce? I asked. Oh, it'll absolutely complicate the divorce, Diana agreed cheerfully. It'll also freeze all marital assets pending investigation, prevent Tyson from moving any more money, and give us leverage that Martin Chesak has never seen in his 40-year career representing rich men who think their wives are stupid. Plus, if you're willing to cooperate with the criminal investigation as a witness, immunity, I finished. Whistleblower protection. Exactly. You become the cooperative spouse who discovered her husband's crimes and reported them, rather than an accomplice. The DA gets a high-profile case with documentation and recordings handed to them on a silver platter. Tyson gets a criminal defense attorney instead of a divorce lawyer. I thought about Tyson sitting in the Driscoll Hotel, probably congratulating himself on his clever asset-hiding scheme. Thought about him telling Martin Chesak that I was too unsophisticated to figure out what he was doing. Thought about him underestimating me one final, catastrophic time. Make the call, I said. Diana picked up her phone immediately. This is going to get ugly. Good, I replied, watching downtown Austin through the window. The same view Tyson probably enjoyed from various bars while celebrating deals I'd actually closed. I've spent 11 years being nice. Ugly sounds refreshing. By Tuesday afternoon, 3 things happened in rapid succession. First, Diana filed our divorce response with an attached fraud complaint documenting every suspicious transfer from the past week. Second, the Travis County District Attorney's Office opened a formal investigation into Floyd Construction LLC's business practices, with particular attention to municipal contract fraud. Third, a very surprised Tyson Floyd received notification that all company and personal accounts were frozen pending investigation. His contractor's license was under emergency review, and he had 72 hours to appear for questioning with legal representation. Martin Chesak called Diana 6 times that afternoon. She didn't answer once. I went home, made myself dinner, and slept better than I had in 3 years. Turns out, revenge isn't best served cold. It's best served with ironclad documentation and a really good lawyer. The thing about watching someone's empire crumble is that it doesn't happen overnight like in the movies. It's a slow-motion car crash that takes weeks to fully unfold. Tyson's complete unraveling took exactly 9 weeks from the moment those accounts froze to the moment he realized he'd lost everything that mattered to him. Week 1 was my personal favorite. I was having coffee on our front porch, still technically our porch, though Tyson hadn't been back since the hotel, when his truck screeched into the driveway at 7 on a Thursday morning. He practically fell out of the driver's seat, waving his phone like it had personally betrayed him. "What did you do?" he shouted, stomping across the lawn in wrinkled clothes that suggested he'd slept in them. "The accounts are frozen. Everything's frozen. The DA called Martin. My license is under review." "What did you do?" I took a slow sip of my coffee, savoring the moment. "I filed for divorce. You know, that thing you wanted? Turns out when you file properly, courts like to make sure nobody's hiding assets during active proceedings. Funny how that works." "You reported me," he hissed, climbing the porch steps. "You actually reported me to the district attorney." Technically, Diana reported irregularities we discovered during standard divorce discovery. The DA's office made their own decision to investigate based on the evidence. I smiled sweetly. I'm just a cooperative witness providing documentation of what I observed while performing my administrative duties. You remember, the job you said I was too simple-minded to understand? Tyson's face went through several colors I didn't know human skin could achieve. "You're destroying everything we built." "Everything I built while you took credit," I corrected. "And I'm not destroying anything. I'm just making sure appropriate authorities know about some concerning financial practices. If there's nothing wrong, I'm sure the investigation will clear everything right up. He took a step forward, then stopped when he noticed my phone propped on the porch railing, camera pointed directly at him. Smart choice, I said. Assault charges on top of fraud charges would really complete the picture, though I suppose it would give Martin something else to bill you for. How much is he charging, by the way? $400 an hour? $450? Tyson backed down the steps slowly. This isn't over. You're absolutely right, I agreed. This is just getting started. You have that meeting with the DA's investigator tomorrow, right? Diana mentioned it. Should be interesting. Oh, and Ty? Wear a nice suit. First impressions matter. He left rubber marks on the driveway for the third time in 2 weeks. By week 2, the story hit the Austin American-Statesman. Not front page, but prominent enough in the business section. Local contractor under investigation for municipal fraud. The article didn't name Tyson directly due to the ongoing investigation, but anyone in Austin's construction world knew exactly who they meant. Floyd Construction had been too visible, Tyson too loud at those Texas Builders Association happy hours. My phone started ringing. Friends, acquaintances, people from church I hadn't spoken to in months. Everyone wanted to know if I was okay, if I needed anything. How was I handling everything? I gave the same answer to everyone. I'm cooperating fully with authorities and focusing on moving forward. It drove Tyson insane that I'd become the sympathetic party overnight. Week 3 brought my favorite development. Patricia Floyd called, and this time she wasn't playing protective mother. You need to stop this, she said without preamble. The IRS contacted me about coastal property holdings. They're auditing my returns going back 5 years. Do you understand what you've done? I understand that you allowed your son to register a shell corporation in your name that received over $1 million in unreported income, I replied calmly. What I don't understand is why you think that's my problem to fix. I didn't know. Then you should probably get a lawyer, Patricia. A good one. Maybe not Martin Cheswick, though, since he's already representing Tyson, and there might be a conflict of interest. I hear Diana Reeves is excellent, but she's currently representing me in proceedings against your son. Tough situation. The line went quiet for a long moment. He's my son. And I was his wife, I said, voice harder than I'd ever used with her. The wife he cheated on, lied to, and tried to financially destroy in divorce proceedings while using my work to build his reputation. You raised him to think women were accessories to his success, Patricia. Congratulations. Your parenting choices are about to cost you a substantial IRS penalty. She hung up. I didn't hear from her again. Week 5 was when things got truly satisfying. The Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation issued an emergency suspension of Tyson's contractor license based on evidence of fraudulent inspection reports and material substitution on municipal projects. Without that license, Floyd Construction couldn't bid on new projects, couldn't pull permits, couldn't legally operate. Current projects had 45 days to find new licensed contractors or face shutdown. The domain expansion project Tyson was so proud of dropped Floyd Construction and hired Barton Hills Builders within 72 hours. The city's recreation center project canceled our contract and opened new bidding. Every client with active projects started calling, panicking, demanding answers. Those calls came to me because I was still listed as the office manager on every project file. I referred them all to Martin Cheswick's office and suggested they might want to consult their own attorneys about breach of contract claims. Martin Cheswick called Diana personally on week 6. Your client needs to be reasonable, he told her through speakerphone in Diana's office, where I was reviewing prosecution timelines. This vendetta is destroying lives. Tyson's willing to negotiate a fair settlement if Ramona reduces her cooperation with the DA. Diana looked at me. I shook my head. Martin, Diana said smoothly, my client is legally obligated to provide testimony under her witness agreement with the Travis County DA's office. She can't simply stop cooperating. That ship sailed when she signed immunity paperwork 3 weeks ago. Then maybe she shouldn't have signed it, Martin snapped. Maybe your client shouldn't have committed multiple felonies while involving his wife in the paperwork, Diana countered. We're not negotiating cooperation. The criminal case proceeds independently of the divorce. What we can discuss is asset division once the criminal investigation determines which assets are proceeds of fraud and which are legitimate. The silence on the other end was delicious. Week 8 brought federal involvement. Turns out municipal contract fraud involving federal infrastructure grant money brings federal agencies to the party. The FBI doesn't move quickly, but when they coordinate with local DA offices on cases with solid documentation, things happen. Tyson's assets weren't just frozen anymore. They were being examined for potential civil forfeiture. The Westlake house, where Patricia had registered coastal property holdings, received a visit from agents with boxes and cameras. His truck, his boat, the rental properties, everything became evidence in expanding investigations. Simone Hartley, bless her heart, issued a statement through her real estate agency announcing she'd had a brief professional relationship with Mr. Floyd that had been mischaracterized, and she was focusing on her career and personal growth during this difficult time. Translation: she ran the moment federal charges became a possibility. Can't say I blamed her. That Range Rover probably needed expensive repairs anyway. Week 9 was Floyd Construction's bankruptcy filing. Without Tyson's license, without access to frozen accounts, without any way to operate, Martin advised Chapter 11 corporate bankruptcy to protect whatever assets might survive criminal proceedings. I'd expected this. Diana had warned me bankruptcy would be Tyson's move to try to shield money. What Tyson didn't expect was that I'd already filed a priority creditor claim for 10 years of unpaid wages at market rate for a construction company operations manager. Roughly $85,000 annually, totaling $850,000. The bankruptcy trustee took one look at my documentation. Detailed timesheets I'd kept, job descriptions I'd fulfilled, market rate comparisons Diana had compiled, testimony from vendors confirming I'd been their primary contact for years, and agreed my wage claim had merit and priority standing over general creditors. Suddenly, I wasn't just an ex-wife in a divorce. I was a priority creditor in bankruptcy proceedings. That same week, 61 days after Tyson had asked for divorce, our marriage was officially dissolved. The judge awarded me 70% of all non-criminal marital assets, our Terrytown house free and clear, and ordered Tyson to pay my legal fees. Tyson didn't show up to the final hearing. Martin appeared alone and didn't contest anything. I walked out of that courthouse in December sunshine feeling lighter than I had in 11 years. 9 months later, I'm sitting in what used to be Tyson's corner office, now mine, looking out at downtown Austin while my project manager reviews our bid for the new library expansion in South Austin. The nameplate on my desk reads, Ramona Floyd, CEO, RF Construction LLC. I kept the Floyd name because the business relationships and reputation I built over 10 years are mine, regardless of whose last name is on the marriage certificate I no longer have. The irony isn't lost on me that I'm now running the company I built while being told I didn't understand business. Tyson, for those wondering, accepted a plea deal in February. 2 years federal probation, $400,000 in restitution, permanent revocation of his contractor license in Texas, and prohibition from bidding on any government contracts nationwide. The prosecutors wanted prison time, but Diana's documentation of my cooperation and my testimony positioning me as an employee following employer directives without understanding the full scope of illegality kept me completely clear while giving them everything they needed for conviction. Turns out, being underestimated has its advantages in federal court, too. He's working for his cousin's HVAC company in Houston now, doing commercial installations. Not exactly the empire building he imagined, but it's honest work. More honest than anything he did while running Floyd Construction anyway. Patricia sold her Westlake house to pay IRS penalties and moved to a condo in Round Rock. She sent me a Christmas card in December. No note, just her name printed inside one of those generic holiday cards from Walgreens. I took it as the closest thing to an apology I'd ever get from a woman who spent 11 years treating me like hired help. I sent her a card back with a photo of the new RF construction office and a handwritten note. Business is good. Wishing you well. Simone left Austin entirely. Last I heard through the real estate gossip network, she's selling waterfront properties in Corpus Christi. Good for her, honestly. She made a terrible choice with a married man, but she had enough sense to run when everything imploded. That's more self-awareness than most people demonstrate. The company itself has been rebuilt from the ground up. I kept 4 employees from the original Floyd construction, people who actually did the work while Tyson took credit and who had no knowledge of the fraudulent practices. Everyone else was either complicit or too loyal to someone who didn't deserve loyalty. We're smaller now, more selective, more careful. I turn down projects that feel questionable and actually pay my people market rate plus benefits. Revolutionary concepts in construction, apparently. Our profit margins aren't as obscene as Tyson's were, but that's because I'm not skimming 30% off every municipal contract or using materials that'll fail in 5 years. Funny thing about running an honest business. You sleep better at night. My therapist says that's called not having a guilty conscience. Who knew? The Terrytown house is still mine, though I've been considering selling it. Too many memories of being small in my own home. I've been looking at places in Clarksville. Older neighborhood, smaller houses, less performative wealth. Turns out I don't actually need 4 bedrooms and a kitchen designed for entertaining people I didn't like. Diana and I have lunch once a month now. She says I'm her favorite client success story, the one she brings up when other women come to her office convinced they can't leave because they don't understand their husband's finances. You probably understand more than you think, she tells them. And if you don't, start paying attention now. Document everything. I've been asked to speak at a Texas Women in Construction symposium next month about business ethics and financial literacy. Apparently my story resonates. Who knew that don't commit federal fraud and keep excellent records would be inspiring? I've thought a lot about what I'd say if I could go back and talk to the version of me from 11 years ago. The one who married Tyson, thinking partnership meant supporting someone else's dreams instead of building your own. I'd tell her that being called simple-minded isn't an insult. It's reconnaissance. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you're not paying attention. And then document absolutely everything. Because someday those records will be the difference between losing everything and owning it all. I'd tell her that marriage should make you bigger, not smaller. And when you start apologizing for existing in your own life, that's when you document everything and find Diana Reeves's number. Mostly, though, I'd tell her that numbers have always been her strong suit. She just needed to stop letting someone else tell her they weren't. Last week, I ran into Martin Cheswick at a Chamber of Commerce event. He actually approached me, which took courage considering how thoroughly his client got demolished. "Ramona," he said, extending his hand professionally. "I hear the business is doing well. Congratulations." I shook his hand because I'm professional, even when I don't particularly want to be. "Thanks, Martin. How's Tyson doing?" "As well as can be expected, given everything." He paused. "He asks about you sometimes. Wonders how you're managing." I smiled. "Tell him I'm managing just fine with all those numbers I never understood." Martin actually laughed. "He said you'd say something like that. Said he should have known better." "Learning is growth," I replied, "even if it comes late. The truth is, I don't think about Tyson much anymore. Not with anger, not with satisfaction, not really with anything. He's become a cautionary tale I tell myself on difficult days. A reminder of what happens when you accept someone else's assessment of your worth instead of proving it yourself. These days, I'm too busy running a company, mentoring young women in construction, and building something that's actually mine. I'm rebuilding more than a company. I'm rebuilding the version of myself that existed before I started accepting being made small. And you know what? That version is pretty good with numbers. Always has been.